What's up everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and you're following the 3H's of the channel. And this week they threw everything they could at us, but we got here again. It's Friday. And if this is your first time listening to the TheLeaf podcast, then it's sort of like my other videos, but not quite. This one is more conversational, it's usually shorter, sometimes longer, and it's kind of just me going over stuff that I found pretty interesting this week. And since this week nothing in particular really grabbed my attention, it's definitely gonna be a bunch of things that we're gonna talk about. And this first one is no exception. This is a prehistoric wasp that was found in amber, and it seems that it used its butt to snatch victims. And you didn't hear that wrong, that is exactly right, we have a butt-snatching wasp. And besides just the concept of this, the whole reason that I kind of picked this wasp is how terrifying that would be to be a creature nowadays. Because like a lot of people already hate wasps, but this one, its back is like a Venus flytrap. And then it doesn't necessarily kill you, it just lays eggs inside of your body, like some weird version of a facehugger from Alien. And this absolute specimen was found preserved in amber in northern Myanmar. Now I think the good part about this insect, and if I haven't put it up already on the screen, I'll put it up here now. Basically, it's good that it went extinct, kind of. You know, usually we talk about trying to de-extinct animals, such as in the case of direwolves, whether you believe those are really replications of direwolves or just a wolf with altered genes, or how people are still attempting to bring back the woolly mammoth or the Tasmanian tiger. In this case, there's no living relative to this weird insect or weird kind of prehistoric wasp that exists today. And I think that's a good thing, because I would not want whatever the hell this is flying around, because I just know that for some reason it would definitely be where I live. Even though it wouldn't be like native to this area, it would somehow just show up, because I swear every year I see like new bugs that are weird looking that I've never seen before. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting. A parasitic wasp that, you know, kind of snatches people with its butt. Well, not people, like bugs, but you get the picture. And when I did this, I immediately thought of like a man-eater sized one that would definitely be in Jurassic Park or somebody's nightmares, that just like opens its butt up into a Venus flytrap and then grabs you and lays eggs inside of you like a nightmare. But yeah, I kind of thought that I would bring that up first because I saw it, so I thought, hey, everyone else needs to see it too. I guess it was one of those things. And last week I mentioned that I was reading an article by Marcus Louth that was about giants and their connection to ancient civilizations or mummies and all that kind of stuff. It was super interesting. And there was one particular piece of that article that I thought was really cool, because I've talked about Lake Baikal a lot on the channel. And then maybe after I talk about this one, I'll get into one of the urban legends about giants and stuff that you've probably heard of before. But of course, I will link the article where you can go through it yourself. There's a lot more in that article, and there's also a lot more crazy and weird experiences and encounters. So in the 1992 edition of a Russian paranormal magazine called Anomalia, an author named Mark Stenberg, who was a Soviet veteran of the Afghan War, and he was just a military expert who at the time of writing this was residing in the United States. So his article and encounter details an event that took place in the summer of 1982. This was still during the war with Afghanistan. Now Mark Stenberg said that he and Lieutenant Colonel Gennady Zevrev were running training exercises near Lake Baikal when a superior officer arrived at the lake, kind of unannounced. He told the officers that divers had encountered humanoids, strange humanoids at that, deep under the waters of Lake Baikal. And if it wasn't already creepy enough to find humanoids down there, he said that they were 10 feet tall. And even stranger, the waters were icy cold, but these humanoids only wore skin-tight suits. They also had some kind of spherical helmet, so already this is kind of sounding like a sci-fi or kind of thing like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if, usually in old sci-fi shows, even in like episodes of The Twilight Zone, that you'd see people with skin-tight suits and kind of spherical helmets. I wonder if the inspiration came from encounters like this. But back to what happened. The divers were ordered to apprehend these humanoids, and as you can imagine, it didn't really go well for them. In fact, as they approached the humanoid, it used some kind of sonar weapon that forced all the divers to surface out of the water. Some of the divers were extremely sick following this, as you can imagine they would be from surfacing so fast. 3 of them ended up passing away, and according to several fishermen who spoke years later, they claimed to have seen the military divers propelled out of the lake up to 50 feet into the air. Now, what's mentioned here in the article, and I think what a lot of you are thinking too, is that these are not just regular giants that could be like living in some kind of breakaway civilization. These are probably extraterrestrial giants. They were also described as having very large eyes and very pale skin, so it kind of is starting to sound like extraterrestrial giants. And now, according to Paul Stonehill, Soviet authorities had identified several other lakes and bodies of water where there were reports of those aquatic humanoids. And to further add to the fact that they probably are aliens, there would be a lot of reports of huge discs and sphere-shaped objects that would hover over or near the water or dive in or come up out of the water. And I'm unsure if it's related, but it happened around the same time as that Lake Baikal incident. Now, this account comes from the files of a Mikhail Gurtin, and this is more about something that started as a UFO sighting on May 26, 1982. And it says right here, although it isn't clear if it was sent to pursue a UFO, on that same day that one was seen, a MiG fighter jet disappeared in the same area. And then, as you would imagine, a search was put into place to find the plane and the pilot. And then they found nothing. They found no wreckage, they found no pilot, or anything. But something weird did happen. A search unit came to a clearing after walking through a thick woodland of the region, and there in front of them was a 10-foot-tall humanoid creature, once again dressed in tight-fitting silver suit. And they pretty much kind of stood there for a couple seconds before this thing had recognized their appearance, and then he ran off into the trees to the other side of the clearing. And just seconds later, the search team heard an explosive sound that was followed by a bright flash of light coming from the woods in the direction that the creature had disappeared, and then a quote luminescent object rose into the air over the trees before vanishing into the distance with great speed. So of course I leave it to you. Do you think that these 2 instances were related? Do you think that it's possibly the same humanoid, or part of a larger kind of colony, I guess is the word? And better yet, do you think that they are extraterrestrial? Or do you think that they also reside on Earth, but like deep in the Earth, like in the cave systems and stuff? That could explain the weirdly pale skin and the big eyes. Because my thought process would be that you would need bigger eyes to take in more light, especially in extreme low light environments like in a cave. But they could also just be aliens. And it's also really cool to find these encounters that come out of Russia. It seems that even now they come out almost sporadically. It's like after the Iron Curtain fell, there was a lot that came out. And then ever since then, there's still stuff coming out, but it's much more almost controlled maybe. I don't know. It could just be that people are just finding out about it now. It's hard to say really. But yeah, let me know what you think about that. Are they related? Is it extraterrestrials? Is it beings that come from within the Earth? What do they call those? Ultra-terrestrials, I think? Yeah, something like that. But yeah, let me know what you think. It's super interesting. And next up, I have a very strange encounter from the Cannock Chase Woods. This is in the UK, and it's apparently a place that's teeming with high strangeness and just weird sightings of things. And this is from an article written by Nick Redfern that I'll link in the description as well. It's also referenced in the Stafford Post newspaper from April 26, 2007. So it starts with a postman who was just riding his motorbike past a cemetery on this regular sunny morning. And then he caught sight of something. At first he thought it was a large dog that was just walking around the cemetery, but it wasn't a dog. The more he looked at it, the more he said that it looked like a wolf. But wolves have been extinct in the UK since 1680. So obviously he kind of stopped his bike and just stared in awe at this thing that was prowling around the gravestones. And as he stared at it, trying to think of some other explanation, it wasn't a husky, it wasn't a big dog, it was literally a wolf in the Cannock Chase. And while so far, especially if you live in North America, you may be thinking, oh, a big deal, a wolf. But when they haven't been sighted somewhere in a few hundred years, it can be pretty scary to somebody. But that's not all that happened. As he stared at this thing, it turned and locked eyes with him for just a few seconds, and then something terrifying happened. The body of this wolf began to change, to mutate almost. The hind legs of the wolf began to grow in length, and he said that while this thing was doing it, it was almost like it was blurry to look at, which maybe because it was vibrating so fast, I don't know. But as it changed from the longer hind legs, it started kind of adopting a bipedal pose, and then it started resembling something of a human shape. Its limbs began to morph and contort, and then the man said that this wolf changed to a werewolf. Now the good part is the creature just turned around and bounded off into the woods. So you can imagine how that would be the scare of a lifetime, and you'd honestly not want to tell anybody because they would think you were totally insane. But it came back. Only weeks later, there was another encounter in the same cemetery. This time the witness was a leader of a local scout group. He too had the distinct misfortune to cross paths with the monster. Upon first seeing it, he thought that maybe it was a wolf that had escaped from a private zoo. But as with all of these things, that theory went out the window when the same thing happened. The animal began to contort and morph into a hairy kind of humanoid form. It rose up and reared on its back legs to a height of around 7 feet, and then bounded off again into the woods. And then a woman apparently saw a similar thing about a 2-minute drive from the cemetery, late one night in July of 2007. But this time, she didn't see anything change. She didn't see a wolf. She saw the full werewolf or dogman or whatever you want to call it. It was standing near the edge of this tree-shrouded area. She obviously stopped her car and gripped the steering wheel. And then she watched as this thing not looked blurry, but was somehow enveloped in a blue haze, and then turned back into a wolf and bounded off into the trees once again. So what exactly do you think was happening here? Because I am not really sure. And in this article too, it also details encounters with kind of flying humanoid entities, Sasquatch-like beings, Mothman-like beings, big black cats, and in this case, dogmen and werewolves. Now, the question I like to pose to you is, are these all living there? Or are they the same entities that are taking on different forms, like a shapeshifter? I kind of think that could explain the weird glitching motion or the blue haze, but it could also be that these are all just things that live in that area that, from what I read here, is largely untamed. So yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments. Are these all in the same area? They're all living there? Is there some kind of weird portal going on there? Is it just high strangeness and these things manifest and demanifest kind of at random? Again, let me know what you think. And with that, I think I'll end it off here. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, then please feel free to like and subscribe. If you would like to donate to the channel or become a member of the channel, the memberships are down on this little button down below the video. Super thanks is also down there as well. And to donate off-platform, there's PayPal and Patreon. And with that, I think I will see you Sunday. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like, share, and subscribe, and all that great stuff, and comment. And yeah, I'll see you Sunday. I hope you enjoyed the video on Wednesday. And yeah, catch you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching.